Do you still remember this sound? Despite being announced over 6 years ago and having a trailer with over 60 million views, Hytale, Hypixel Studios' first game, is still nowhere to be found. What was once the most highly anticipated game, with some even labeling it the next Minecraft, now lies as a complete mystery. 1 year ago, I made a video on this matter, which you might be familiar with, and while well received, it came to a watered down and pretty surface level conclusion. In this video, we will attempt to correct those wrongs and dive deep into research to finally solve the mystery of Hytale, the biggest game no one's ever played.
We're going to make this the biggest game we possibly can.
Our story starts out in a better time. 2016 was still a very popular and eventful year for Minecraft. The game would receive a ton of new content in the form of 3 major updates, one of which would go on to completely change the way the game's played forever, but honestly, that could be its own video. And, most importantly for context, it was also when multiplayer and PvP servers really started to take off. The most popular server of which, obviously being Hypixel, averaging around 30 to 40,000 players at any given moment. Hypixel games like Skywars were still refreshing to play and interesting to watch, so much so that several YouTubers were able to grow their channel to hundreds of thousands of subscribers and build temporary careers simply by uploading Skywars and Hypixel content alone. However, this didn't last forever. Slowly over the course of the next 2 years, both Hypixel and Minecraft as a whole would see a significant decrease in both players and interest. This can be chalked up to a couple different things, such as a general lack of updates in both areas, as well as the other, newer games like Fortnite becoming much more popular in the mainstream at the time. Hypixel also had its own additional issue. As the server got more popular year after year, and the average number of players began to increase, so too did the amount of cheaters. Malicious players looking to ruin the game by gaining an unfair advantage over everyone else.
He's coming back! What is this?
Now, cheating has been an issue with video games since the literal dawn of time. However, Minecraft and, by proxy, multiplayer servers like Hypixel are notoriously much easier to exploit. Games like Fortnite, for example, or really any of the most popular shooter games out there, have a client-side anti-cheat which is installed on the user's device and actively scans the user's PC to detect if any third-party cheating software is being used. Whereas Minecraft never really cared about their multiplayer experience, because I mean, honestly, they don't really have to, leaving the tasks to be done by the server developers, creating their own server-side anti-cheat, which obviously doesn't work nearly as effectively. Minecraft cheats are also way easier to download. Instead of having to go through a million different sketchy Discord servers and potentially spending hundreds of dollars, you can just go to a website and download a completely undetectable hack client for just a couple dollars. This problem, combined with everything else I've mentioned so far, seemed to be enough to convince a large chunk of the Hypixel player base to slowly abandon the server for these other games. And it makes sense. Why continue playing a stale 5-year-old game infested with cheaters when you can just try out a new, vaguely similar game that's constantly getting refreshing updates and has almost no cheaters at all? All of this is to say that throughout 2018, Hypixel content was getting less and less viable for content creators with each passing month. And such, one by one, different Skywars, Bedwars, and other Hypixel YouTubers would begin to either switch their content to be focused on other games, or just straight up quit altogether, just as a sizable chunk of their audience already had. What caused you specifically to want to move on from Hypixel content and switch to another game?
Yeah, so for me, I felt like I had really done everything I could do within Skywars, so the content was really dry. But on top of that, another big problem that I experienced a lot was just the hackers, especially whenever I played ranked Skywars. There were just hackers everywhere.
Speaking for myself, I think it was more like dealing with all of my content being extremely repetitive and not having new and fresh content to capitalize on. It was always like the same thing. It was either Skywars or maybe at the time Bedwars just dropped, but you know, there wasn't a lot of variety to do as a creator, and it kind of left you in a space where you felt like you needed to move on to something else to stay relevant.
If the server is dying, YouTube isn't going to stay popular with Hypixel YouTubers. Those views are going to go down too. I mean, it really was not a good time to be a Minecrafter in 2018.
However, all of that was about to change. The holidays were right around the corner, and the Minecraft community was about to receive a gift. For the first time in almost 2 years, the official Hypixel Twitter account would make a tweet. In preparation for upcoming major announcements, this Twitter account will soon be used as the official Hypixel Studios team account. Naturally, the entire Hypixel community began to speculate about what these supposed quote-unquote major announcements could possibly be related to. Perhaps it was for a new minigame, or maybe a huge update that could potentially revive the server. These were just a couple of theories that were floating around at the time. However, it wouldn't be until about 3 weeks later, on December 9th, where Hypixel Studios would tweet again. It's been a long time coming, but it's almost time to reveal Hytale, the first game from Hypixel Studios. Stay tuned for a first look trailer later this week. It truly was an incredible time. There were always rumors and talks about Hypixel creating a standalone game, but now the community not only received official confirmation, but could finally catch a glimpse of what it would look like. Also included in the tweet was a link to Hytale's official website, which, at the time, merely displayed a countdown. Every day, the number of people watching this countdown grew exponentially, all of which were eagerly anticipating this mysterious trailer. Eventually, the day came, the countdown reached 0, and the Hytale trailer would shock the world.
Dude, that combat looks so good!
We have Skywars! Oh my god, the amount of custom. Hold on, this is important to me. Hold on.
Look at that. That looks great.
Hytale really was everything the community was hoping for. A fresh, new sandbox game similar to Minecraft, but seemingly even more feature-rich. Even your standard tropes like adventuring through different biomes, fighting different mobs and bosses, and building different creations all look like they got taken to another level compared to the gameplay of Minecraft. And just to list a few other features they announced before moving on, their own custom version of Replay Mod to help content creators, an entire modding platform with all sorts of 3D modeling, texturing, and animation tools for the modding community, the ability to create and join multiplayer servers, their own official server built with custom adaptations of Hypixel minigames like Skywars and survival games, and most importantly, its own client-side anti-cheat, effectively solving the largest issue Hypixel had with its original server. It really seemed like both the Hytale game and trailer was made to satisfy every corner of the Minecraft community, and it definitely did. By the end of 2018, Hytale's trailer would reach over 30 million views and has since doubled to 60 million, where it lies today. From what I found, the most optimal amount of time between a game's initial trailer and the official launch is anywhere from 6 months to a year. This is also when the Hytale community generally first expected the game to come out.
Please be by 2019. If this game comes out in 2020, I'm going to be upset.
In this video, I'm going to be explaining multiple reasons why I believe Hytale will be releasing next month.
When did you generally expect the game to release?
Truthfully, I think expected it in 2020. Little did I know what 2020 was going to be, but I was hoping for it to come out in 2019.
Yeah, for sure. When did you generally expect the game to release?
When the trailer very first came out, I think I was expecting it to come out sometime, honestly, within the next year in 2019. And I thought at the latest, very latest 2020, which even then I thought is like crazy. Who puts out a movie trailer and then waits 2 years to release, right? Like at most it's a year.
Yeah, exactly. Hypothetically, if that was the case and Hytale happened to release sometime in, let's say, mid to late 2019, I would say there would have been a good chance that, given the insane amount of hype that was generated for it, and the ever-declining state of Minecraft at the time, that Hytale would have been extremely successful, perhaps competing with or even temporarily surpassing Minecraft. But obviously, none of this ended up actually happening. In fact, it was actually quite the opposite, as going into the following year, it would actually be Minecraft that had a massive and unexpected resurgence in popularity, whether it be from people being reminded of the game via its 10th anniversary in May, seeing it again on YouTube from things like PewDiePie's Let's Play series or Minecraft Monday, or simply just remembering the game exists and getting a little bit of nostalgia. Players started flocking back to the game, leading to a staggering 112 million monthly players being reported for Minecraft in September 2019. By the way, if you want to learn how this video or any of my other videos are edited, then be sure to check out my Patreon. You'll also receive a ton of other perks as well. Normally I don't plug it, but there's a good chance this video is going to get copyright striked for using a Kendrick song, so gotta have something, okay? Also, please subscribe. Anyways, all of a sudden, Minecraft no longer had a reputation of being a quote-unquote dying game. Even the Hypixel server, which only had around 14,000 players on the day Hytale's trailer released, and had been on a steady decline for years, now easily averaged around 50 to 60,000 players at any given time. Since then, Minecraft has continued to maintain a solid and consistent level of popularity, regularly peaking with each new update. Meanwhile, Hytale has long since faded out of the mainstream consciousness, with only a small, dedicated community still awaiting its release, and this trailer remains the only significant piece of media we have even showcasing the game at all. Despite being almost 6 years since its announcement, Hytale still does not exist in a public, playable form. In fact, it's not even close. Which finally brings us to the main question of this video. What happened to Hytale? And the answer is hidden behind a tangled web of old blog posts, mismatched tweets, and false promises. Let's investigate. While from an outside perspective, it may seem like Hypixel Studios suddenly dropped off the face of the earth after launching the Hytale trailer, the truth is they've actually shared a lot over the years about the progress of the game in the blog on their website. Throughout 2019, Hypixel Studios would make a total of 26 different blog posts with a variety of topics ranging from behind-the-scenes insights, in-depth looks into certain features, and overall progress updates from the staff team. The community would receive a bunch of different screenshots and small clips showcasing different mobs and environments that will supposedly be included in the game, as well as a handful of soundtracks from the game being posted on the Hytale YouTube channel as well, one of which you're hearing right now. Wait, hold up. Now I know what you're thinking. Not necessarily the most riveting media in the entire world, but at the very least, it was a steady stream of content that was being released to the community on a consistent basis. A trend that wouldn't necessarily last for long, but going back to these blog posts for a minute, it wouldn't be until November 27th of that year, during a blog post titled November 2019 Development Update, where the community would finally receive a time frame for the game's release. Inside this post, the team expresses that the reaction of the game changed everything for them, and that this completely unexpected level of support has changed their vision for the game and allowed them to be more ambitious about every part of the project. We've previously said that Hytale will be ready when it's ready because we're serious about providing the community with a game that meets their expectations. We can now be a little bit more specific, factoring in the scale of the project and the high bar we want to hit. We're planning for Hytale to be playable by everyone in 2021. Well, 2021 came and went, and obviously, there were no signs of Hytale. On top of that, it seemed like general communication from the Hytale team had begun to dwindle up until this point as well. Like I mentioned previously, Hypixel would make 26 different blog posts within the year after the trailer had launched. Yet despite having twice as much time, they would only make an additional 15 posts throughout both 2020 and 2021 combined, with the second to last one, titled Summer 2021 Development Update, containing even more unfortunate news. What has become increasingly apparent is that we have several more years of work ahead of us before Hytale is ready to launch. We don't want to provide another estimated launch window that turns out to be incorrect. However, we no longer expect to be ready to launch Hytale before 2023 at the earliest, and it very well could take longer. Hytale was officially delayed indefinitely. Why? Well, the rest of the blog post basically goes on to explain that the studio's capabilities have grown significantly since they started development. This is partially caused by when, back in early 2020, Hypixel Studios got acquired by Riot Games, the company behind some extremely popular games like League of Legends and Valorant, both of which make me want to kill myself. This acquisition most likely permanently altered the trajectory of the game's release schedule, as it provided Hypixel Studios the funds it needed to hire more talented developers, and, as such, help carry and expand this supposed new vision they have for the game. Put simply, we're better at making games than we used to be, but taking full advantage of this takes time. Which honestly made me wonder, what would things look like if Riot never came into play? Would the game already be out by now? Would it be out but at a fraction of its full potential? Or perhaps everything they've done was planned from the beginning and this acquisition only sped up the process? We really can only speculate. Speaking of speculation, this blog post would be the very last mention of any potential release date the community would receive. So basically, we have no idea when the game is coming out. The beta could be released tomorrow, or next year, or next decade. No one knows. However, this doesn't mean I haven't heard rumors about when Hytale might come out either. During my previous interviews where I asked a bunch of former Hypixel YouTubers when they thought the game was initially going to release, one of them ended up giving me some pretty interesting information about a potential Hytale release date.
Being someone who was very involved in the Hypixel community, there was a lot of talk about a release date behind the scenes. Most creators that knew Hypixel himself, Simon the guy, or the team, would get a couple hints here and there, because as creators we want to know, like, when can we expect this sort of content to be relevant for us. I was told when that trailer dropped in late 2018 that video game was going to come out in 2020. I was told 2020 was a deadline. These days, with the sources I know, I've been told mid 2025 is the new release date for Hytale. Correct.
Really?
That's what I've been told. Now, I can't, if it doesn't happen, don't come back at me and hate me for it, but that's what I've been told by people who actually know a few things. So I'm crossing my fingers, man. I mean, hopefully that's big news for anyone watching this, but you could potentially expect it like mid 2025.
Now, keep in mind, this statement is just hearsay with no solid or public evidence to back it up, but it's still fun to entertain the possibilities. What we do know, however, is that after 2021, communication essentially fell off a cliff, with the only form of transparency between the players and the Hytale team being in the 2 development update posts they make on their website in the summer and winter of each year. Yeah, 2 blog posts a year. That's it. Now, that's not to say the team hasn't been hard at work. These update posts still reveal some crazy changes that Hytale developers have made recently, such as overhauling all of the game's combat and AI system to provide a much more immersive experience, conducting a deep investigation into how they can properly live up to the community's expectations, or literally redeveloping the entire game engine, switching from Java to C++, which not only will give the player massive performance benefits, but also allow Hytale to be released much easier across its multiple platforms. None of these things are exactly easy tasks, to say the least. As a matter of fact, they're pretty gargantuan feats for any game studio to embark on, let alone a much smaller one like Hypixel Studios, and after acknowledging this fact, it's easier to see what is causing Hytale to take so long. However, 6 months is still a pretty long time to leave your community between updates. It leaves them and any other fans with very little to look forward to, especially for years on end like Hypixel's been doing. Which brings up an even better question. Why are the Hytale team choosing to make these decisions and wait this long to release their game? And if it isn't already clear by now, Hytale has to be perfect. We've already established the massive amount of support that the initial trailer received, which surpassed all Hytale's expectations and absolutely blew the team away. Every decision they've made since then has been done so that the game can live up to the hype it generated all those years ago. This was once again confirmed in an interview with their COO.
We are going to do this, right? We are going to make this the biggest game we possibly can, but release it. And we're going to move forward with this as fast as we possibly can, but as carefully as we can.
Yeah.
We get one chance at knocking this out of the park on day 1.
In my last video, I mentioned that this sort of quality over recency approach is a valid strategy that occurs in many different industries, where a creator or company announces a project and then spends an insane amount of time perfecting every little detail. Sometimes you wait 6 years for one of the greatest albums of all time, over a decade for a movie's long anticipated sequel, or so long for a certain game, that the wait for the game itself becomes a widespread meme. The idea is that once the product is finally finished, the obscenely long wait won't really matter, as the sheer impressiveness of the work will simply speak for itself. But will this actually happen with Hytale? Will Hytale actually live up to the hype? And this is where my previous video comes into play, because it was towards the end of that video where I very briefly addressed this same question, arguably the whole point of the entire video, and gave some vague, generally negatively toned points, eventually leaving the video completely unresolved with some shitty answer at the end. But will Hytale actually be a genuinely good quality game that will last decades to come? And that's a question that can only be answered with time. Which justifiably led to a good chunk of people criticizing me in the comments for leaving them unsatisfied. So now, let me set things straight. I actually do think Hytale will succeed, you know, whenever it releases. Last year, I pointed out that Hytale hasn't really done anything to advertise their game to new players after they released their initial trailer. The only stuff getting posted on their socials is the occasional fan art piece and some notifications about when they post development updates. Their official YouTube channel is essentially an inactive music library, and their blog only posts updates every half a year, if we're lucky. But looking at it now, I really don't think it matters all too much. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely think it would be fantastic if they were to start posting tons of gameplay footage and appease their core fanbase, but I can understand why they haven't. As I mentioned previously, the Hytale team announced that they would be rewriting their entire engine back in 2021, which is also around the time that communications started to go silent, and this makes sense. After the new engine was announced, any content or gameplay they posted using the old engine automatically became irrelevant. It's simply not what the final game will look like, and as such, the Hytale team no longer has any reason to post it. I believe that once the new engine gets further in development, the Hytale team will most likely start to open up the curtains and begin posting gameplay and content again. Except, oh wait, they already started this summer by giving us the first look at some cinematics with the new engine. Also, let's be real, 60 million views is still 60 million views. The single hardest part of developing a successful game is getting enough eyes on it, and I think it's safe to say that Hypixel's already handled that aspect. You have to remember that a lot of these casual viewers haven't necessarily forgotten about the game. All it needs is a simple reminder that it exists, and I think the analytics of my previous Hytale video proved this pretty well. Another big point that I made in that video is that by the time the Hytale launch actually rolls around, most of its fanbase will have grown up and completely forgotten about the game. And honestly, I still think this is partially true. 6 years at minimum is still a very long amount of time, no matter which way you cut it. In a post on the Hytale info subreddit, this user named Cats Will Fly left a comment saying, "Since the trailer released, I started high school, graduated high school, earned 2 associate's degrees, started college, and I'm on track to graduate by spring 2025. It's entirely possible I will be in a master's program / post-undergrad education by the time this game releases. I was 14 when the trailer came out." And this user isn't the only one out there that shares a similar experience. I received so many comments on my last video from people who had comparable stories to share. However, the truth is, this group of people is no longer Hytale's target demographic. As the years go by, the more apparent it becomes that if Hytale wants to truly succeed, the game needs to be built for longevity. Simply being Hypixel's version of Minecraft isn't going to cut it anymore like it might have back in 2018. Now, Hytale needs to be better or at least different enough than its competitors if it wants a share of the general Minecraft and Roblox audience, and that's who Riot Games and Hytale will be advertising towards. Will the OG Hypixel community still download and try out the game? Absolutely, I know I will. But for the most part, I believe Hytale needs to target the next generation of players if it truly wants to survive. Speaking of players, what I didn't realize when I posted my original video was just how active the core Hytale community still was. Subreddits and Discord servers with tens of thousands of members. Community events like Hytale Thankmas, which steadily raise thousands of dollars a year for charity. YouTube channels like Quebec Corner and Hytale News, which, despite having such little to work with, continue to frequently upload new content to keep the community hyped with the tiny amounts of new information we get. And after discovering this and all of the other research that was necessary for today's video, I truly think that, upon release, the noise generated by both the core community and Hytale and Riot's future announcements will be enough to bring the general mainstream back to the game. So to wrap up, Hytale still very much exists, just not in any public or playable format so far. And being totally honest, it will likely remain that way for at least a few more years. However, Hypixel Studios knows what they're doing, and Riot really doesn't make bad games, so I'm not too worried. If I were to summarize this entire video into a singular sentence, it would be, let them cook. Oh, that was terrible. Okay, alright, whatever. Thanks for watching.